Alright, we are going to continue on with the Great Houdini, and we are starting with Chapter 4. Houdini and Bess didn't know anyone in London. They had no bookings. They had only enough money to last them 1 week. Houdini went to every theater looking for work. Finally, C. Dundas Slater, the manager of London's best music hall, booked the Houdinis for a week, but soon they were out of work again. There were too many handcuff escape artists in England. Now, if you could break out of cuffs from Scotland Yard, Slater told Houdini, I could give you steady work. Houdini never let a challenge go by. He was ready and willing to try. Scotland Yard was the headquarters of the London police. Criminals knew that it was impossible to break out of a jail cell in Scotland Yard, or to crack the cuffs that were used. But Houdini knew that 2 keys could open most British cuffs, and he owned both of them. Houdini was handcuffed to a stone pillar inside of a cell. He was checked for hidden keys, but the police could not find any. Houdini had hidden the key where no one would think to look. He'd swallow it, and it was holding it in his throat. You won't be going anywhere, I'm sure, said Superintendent Melville as he closed the door with a smile. But Melville was wrong. In seconds, the handcuffs clattered to the floor. Houdini was free. It was unbelievable. The Houdinis got a 6-month booking. The show sold out every night. The Houdinis became the talk of London. When the 6 months were up, Houdini got work in Paris. He came up with a dangerous stunt to get people's attention. He would jump into the river, sign handcuffed. A large crowd gathered. Handcuffs were locked on Houdini. His wrists were chained. 2 men helped him climb a ladder to the highest pillar of the bridge. Houdini balanced on top of the pillar. Suddenly, he threw himself into the muddy river. The waters closed over him. Seconds went by. The crowd held its breath. Then Houdini popped up, waving the cuffs. He had done the impossible once again. Houdini and Bess toured Europe for 5 years. Their shows became more and more popular. When he came back to America, Houdini was world famous. Chapter 5. Houdini bought a huge house in New York City. It had 2 rooms just for his library. He had over 5,000 books on magic. Houdini was a big star now. He took his show across the country. He toured from Boston to New Orleans to San Francisco. In those days, there was no television. Today, when a magician such as David Copperfield goes on TV, he becomes famous overnight. It took Houdini years and years of traveling and performing all over the world to become famous. Houdini was not the only escape artist touring the country. He needed to keep his show exciting. He wasn't going to be second to anyone. Houdini came up with a new underwater stunt. He called it the water torture cell. A glass cabinet full of water stood on the stage. It looked like a phone booth. Houdini's ankles were locked into a wooden brace and was then lowered into water upside down. The cabinet was locked with a steel lid. The curtain was pulled in front. 3 minutes later, Houdini was free, but the cabinet was still locked. How did he do it? The water torture cell escape was Houdini's most famous stunt. He never told anyone how he did it. He liked to keep his secrets to himself. Chapter 6. Houdini had always kept himself in great physical shape, but now he was over 40 years old. The escapes were getting harder to do. He began to put magic tricks back into his act, but these illusions were bigger than the ones he used to do. Houdini's biggest magic trick of the time was the vanishing elephant trick. He performed it for the first time in 1918 in New York City. Ladies and gentlemen, Houdini shouted, please welcome Jenny. Jenny, the 10,000-pound elephant, tromped into the ring. She wore a wristwatch on her left hind leg. "15 men wheeled out an 8-foot square cabinet. It was big enough to hold an elephant. Jenny was led to the cabinet. Houdini pointed at the watch on her back leg. "Jenny keeps good time," he told the audience. "She will vanish in 2 seconds." The doors closed. Houdini counted to 2. He opened the doors. Presto! The cabinet was empty. Jenny had vanished into thin air. The audience loved this wonderful trick. It became one of Houdini's most famous illusions. Houdini still performed a few of his old escapes. One was a straitjacket escape, but with an added twist. Houdini took the stunt outdoors. He performed it hanging upside down from the outside of a building 45 feet above the street. Houdini stopped traffic with this stunt. Thousands of people jammed into the streets to watch. Once a high wind slammed Houdini into the side of a building. He was badly bruised. Houdini's daring escapes brought him near death more than once. Many people thought it was only a matter of time before an attempted escape took his life. Soon, Houdini would meet his death, but not in the way people imagined. Chapter 7. In the fall of 1926, Houdini was performing in Montreal, Canada. 2 students came into his dressing room. One had heard that Houdini was strong enough to take any punch. Before Houdini could prepare himself by clenching his muscles, the student hit him hard in the stomach several times. Houdini was in severe pain. At the evening show, he was in a cold sweat. His temperature was high. In Detroit the next day, Houdini went to a doctor. The doctor told him that his appendix had to be removed. After the operation, Houdini grew even sicker. He had an infection. Houdini should have canceled his show, but he didn't. That night, he went on stage with a temperature of 104. After that first act, he collapsed backstage. Houdini was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. He was dying. Houdini had challenged death many times. He was used to winning, but this time he would lose. Houdini died in the hospital on October 31st, Halloween. His body was sent back to New York City. It was sent in the bronze coffin Houdini had planned to use in his buried alive escape. Newspapers all over America carried the story of Houdini's death. 2,000 people attended his funeral. Outside, thousands more were jammed on the streets. There would never be another magician like Houdini. Many believed that he had superhuman powers, but Houdini always told them, "There is a trick to everything I do." Perhaps Houdini's greatest trick was becoming who he was. He was born into a poor family. He was uneducated, but through hard work and determination, he became the world's most famous magician and escape artist. Houdini wrote books, starred in movies, and was the president of the Society of American Magicians. Once, reporters asked Bess if she knew the secret of Houdini's success. She replied, "It is Houdini himself. That is the secret." Okay, so that is all for that book. I hope you enjoyed it. It was short, but I thought it was pretty interesting. If you have any questions, please email. And look out for the Zoom chat on Friday, and just continue on with your biography window notes.